are live. My name's Ross Ballett. I'm here with Kamil, and I have the guys from XPEL with me today. I have James and I have Steve, and Chris is here as well. So thank you for joining us. This should be an interesting show. We are going to talk about some car news, and Kamil has done some race car things and tested an electric pickup to see whether electric pickups are what the automakers hope they are, or whether that's a false hope. And then we're going to talk about some PPF and tints and whatnot. So first things first, let's just get it out of the way. The Lexus LS is dead after 30 some odd years. So another sedan has bit the dust. Anybody owned or driven an LS in recent years?
I've driven the first of this current generation that they just put to bed, and it was powered with a V6 engine. That I think it was a turbo V6 engine, but it didn't make me jump out and say I need this, or this is revolutionary, or this is special. It was just. It was sort of like a Genesis. It was just another sort of generic luxury car, which is a damn shame, because they came out of when they introduced it, it was really a game changer, and now it was neither the technology nor the price was there. Maybe the quality was there, but the competition has stepped up, and I think people stopped caring really if the car can go 500,000 miles.
That is true.
So I think it kind of Lexus got what they needed out of it. They got their money's worth out of every single one.
It built the brand. The
yeah.
Lexus brand would not exist as what we know it today without the LS. And it's a shame that it's dead, but it is what it is. Cars come and go, and we move on. They got really expensive, which is kind of the bane of everybody's existence in the auto world these days, but it happens.
And they got new competition. I mean, Genesis is a really strong contender in the luxury. I think people underestimate both how good these cars are and what a threat they are to just about every other automaker.
I don't disagree.
I think I've driven all of them by now, and each one of them is more impressive than the previous.
Yep. Speaking of impressive, the only other tidbit of auto news I wanted to touch on this week is the Lucid Sapphire Motor Trend test times. I don't know if anybody saw this. There's a new special package you can get on the Lucid Sapphire, which is the high performance, ultra performance sedan with 1,234 horsepower and 3 motors. And this new package is basically just the best, grippiest tires you can get and still drive on the street. Motor Trend got their hands on one, and they brought it to their test strip, and it did a 1.881 second 0 to 60. And it did a 9.03 second quarter mile. And this is a car, that costs $250,000, but you can literally walk into a dealership, and if you have the means, you can walk out with a car,
that is just stupid.
Make you and everybody in it sick.
I'm driving the other day. I'm doing like 80 in a 65, and I'm getting passed left and right by CRVs and Nissan Rogues and whatnot. And I think cars have just gotten too fast. I remember having a 90s Integra that I was so happy when it broke 14.9 in a quarter mile. I was thrilled, and what the hell? It's great. I love the technology, love everything, but it's unsafe for most people.
Kamil, I just had the opposite. I was driving the MX-5 and the Miata, and it's like the opposite. You feel like you're going 100 when you're going 60, but it's fun.
And that's the best. That's the fun part. So, when I'm going to mention the Mustang Mach-E Rally later on, but it was the same thing. It's got 480 horsepower, 700 pound-feet of torque, all-wheel drive, just grips. The torque is instant, and it just goes. And it weighs 5,000 pounds, and you're completely isolated from it. So you're just strapped in a box, and it goes, and there is no emotion with it. You're not involved with it, So those times are meaningless to me. I don't mean to sound pessimistic or like an old fart, but it's like,
hey,
cool.
Numbers sell cars. That's the reality, and it's amazing. I don't have a particular interest in going that fast to 60 or the quarter mile in a street car. Like the fastest that I've probably ever done in a street car is like the high twos, maybe 3 second 0 to 60, and that's plenty fast. I'm good. Everybody's got their own prerogative, but for the masses, it's just silly. But goddamn, is it impressive? So. Speaking,
all right, let's
speaking of,
get through this really quick.
Yeah, race cars. Camille, you did race car
cars.
things. Tell us about it.
I did some race car things. I'm about to do more of them. All right, let's go with the Ginetta. Ginetta is a British brand name. In Europe and in UK, they have something called the Ginetta Academy, which basically, because they offer 4 power levels and grades of track-only race cars or track-only cars, and they're not street legal. It allows driver development, driver training, and racer development. We had some F1 current F1 drivers that went through this academy because it's, in one way, it's affordable because it's not a street chassis, so any damage can be repaired much faster than on your typical car, where if you bend the front subframe, you're basically shit out of luck and you got to replace the whole chassis. They're very modular cars, and 3 years ago they started coming to America, started racing SCCA and some other sanctioning bodies, and a year ago it was. The Ginetta Challenge was developed in the United States, and this year I was at Watkins Glen with them in July, just observing, because a good friend of mine is like a brand ambassador for this. It doesn't matter, but I was with them. So there was a field of about 22 cars, identical spec. The representative from Ginetta was there to make sure no one was cheating. They had a huge truck and a trailer filled with enough parts to rebuild completely any of the 2 cars. So the factory support is there, and their idea is to provide a competitive cars made to spec and ones that are sort of budget driven. Now, when we say racing budget, it's still not exactly 24 hours of lemons, but it's even if running a spec Miata isn't cheap, and certainly you not only need to be an amazing driver, but also an amazing mechanic to be competitive in spec Miata. So the existing Ginetta cars, called the GTA class cars, were powered by a Ford's 3.7 liter V6 that was making ballpark 300 horsepower. It's going to a sequential transmission through a limited slip differential, and now they bring to the United States the GP8 car, which is a GR4 level kind of a car, and it's powered by an LS smallback 6.2 liter tuned to only about 400 horsepower, which allows you to increase service intervals and further reduce costs. It doesn't have a transmission. It's got a transaxle in the back, so the design is rather different, and that just changed the whole car. And obviously that's not going to race with the GTA cars. They have some more news coming up on that, but that's going to be competitive in many of the other classes of cars, of race cars. And they had a big event on it over the weekend. I'm going to write about that in the future. But yeah, the GTP V8 powered Ginetta is here, and it's difficult to talk about race cars because people are more impressed with the Lucid doing 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds than a dedicated racetrack that will just destroy it on the track and make it look easy. But this vehicle is going to be really impressive, and it's going to create some exciting racing in the near future. Other than that, cool. Next month I am going to the Petit Le Mans at Road Atlanta. I am going to be there with Michelin, who is not telling me why they invited me, but they're saying they're introducing a new line of race tires that are more sustainable. I don't know what that means.
Sustainable environmentally, or
I don't know.
Longevity.
I don't know.
On track.
I don't know.
Interesting.
They just the key term is sustainable. However, you choose to interpret that. That is up to you.
Less performance fall off after a certain point. I guess we'll find out.
Yes. So that's going to be good, and I'm going to be there with our former news guy Greg, because he lives in Atlanta and he's all into that racing. So I'm excited for that.
Cool.
With that out of the way, I think we can speak with our guests, because
tell Greg I say
last thing
hi.
they want to do is listen to me talk about it.
Tell Greg I say hi, and if Greg, you're listening, hi. It's been a minute since we spoke.
Yeah,
so all right,
Kamil, just on that note, I'll note that just this week, so XPEL does a lot of racing. It sponsors a lot of different race teams, but just had an announcement this week for the first time they're going to be with IMSA next year.
Excellent.
With the FAF Motorsports team doing the Lamborghinis. So XPEL will protect those vehicles. Yeah. So
is Lime Rock on the schedule for next year?
I don't know.
Usually IMSA gets to Lime Rock.
Usually,
that would be awesome.
Yeah, I don't see why they wouldn't be.
Yeah. Cool.
That's right in your backyard.
Yeah. We could have a little get together there, all of us.
I've been meaning to go there every year for the past 20 years, and I haven't.
Dude, it's the best.
This is your year.
Lime Rock is the best. So, all right.
Oh, I've been in Lime Rock. It was the second track I've ever driven on.
Oh, really?
So that's cool. So you guys are sponsoring that car. What number is that car? Do you recall?
No, but I might look really quickly.
There's only
I don't know if they have the 9, maybe.
But you know something, that is so funny thing is, and we'll get to your product line of wraps and tints and everything like that. But the Janetta people actually ask me if I know of a company that can do those pull-offs for the windshields.
Windshield, they do them. XPEL does that for the Indy cars. Yep.
Oh, wow.
Excellent. Mm-hmm. So if I send you a windshield, you guys can make some cuts for them.
That's a Chris question. Or James question.
Hey, with laser scanners, you can probably do anything these days. Yeah. So speaking of XPEL, let's.
But they are actively looking for this. So you may have a new market that you don't even know of.
Yeah, we don't technically do the tear-offs per se. We do the windshield protection film for the vehicles, and they do put them on the race vehicles sometimes. But it would be more of a put it on, leave it on for the race, and take it off and leave your Lexan or plexiglass windshield in perfect condition, and then reapply it for the next race.
And I think that's the key most of the time too, because replacing those windshields is expensive and takes time, and nobody wants to deal with it if they don't have to, and it's important for safety too. So, Chris, I can put you in touch with them, and if you guys figure something out, we can take that offline if you want to.
Absolutely.
Okay, where were we with the XPEL product?
Yeah.
So let's run down your list of products. Now, how we started was because I got one of your press releases, and instantly something hit with me, and I had 1,000,001 questions, 99% of which I kind of forgot. But let's start with your window tint.
I copied and pasted them into our show notes, so you didn't have to remember them on the fly.
So, what is the term ceramic is being thrown around left and right. We got ceramic brakes, we got ceramic, car waxes, we got ceramic. I don't know, probably water bottles.
It's a good buzzword. So it's a good buzzword for media these days.
What is a ceramic tint versus a non-ceramic tint?
So a ceramic tint is actually these nano ceramic particles that are impregnated into the film, and the big thing is, they're non-metallic, they're non-conductive, and they're non-reflective. And they have, so instead of absorbing the heat, they reflect and refract the heat in different directions. So there's no absorption at all. And if you remember with some of the old tints, a lot of them had metals in there. And what happens is, when your car is completely surrounded with a metallized product or a conductive product, you have, to your point, radio, cell phone, any kind of connectivity issues outside of the car. So the ceramics really kind of they actually gave you better performance, and they give you better attributes for your everyday, driving when people want to listen to their radio, XM radio, cell phones, etc.
Now, when you say better performance, do you mean the car interior temperatures, or what do you mean by performance?
Yeah, no, really all around. So the nano ceramics really stepped up the game, and it can block up to 96% of IR. It can block up to 99% of UV, and really the key term when you look at window films is TSER, which stands for the total solar energy rejection. And a premium film is typically in that 60 to 80% TSER range. And if you look at your typical old school deep dyed, or some of the older technologies, those are typically in the the 30 to 50% TSERs, where those ceramics they're anywhere 50 and above is really considered a premium film. And the really good premium films are in that 60 to 80 range on the TSER. That's really the key terminology that people are looking at now, instead of IR, UV. It kind of combines all of them into one category.
So how would your typical customer know this? Because most of us just say, "Hey, I want my car tinted. I'm going to take it to Joe Schmo and Tints down the street. I'm going to say I want 20%, and Joe's going to put it on." But how do we know what makes your product better or comparable to others? Like how would you? Is there anything that you guys can do to educate your potential customers on this, or how will we find this out?
Well, we do a really good job marketing, and we have banners and WAM boxes where you're able to put the films on, and there's a heating element in there, and you can go from a deep dyed to a ceramic, and you can feel the heat rejection, and with the 99% UV, etc. But unfortunately, Kamil, one of the big things when people come in for a tint, they're asking for the VLT and at a specific price range, and the nano ceramics are typically a little bit more expensive. So it's all around the the value prop, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
And to add to that, I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever experienced it for yourselves, but if you're in the driver's seat, that sun is beaming through that driver window, and you got the window's down, and your arm is on fire because you have it rested there. When you roll up that window with ceramic tint, it's like, whoa. Like that is the wow factor that people will experience, that are like, okay, that's why I paid extra for ceramic tint. I can feel that heat rejection. It's pretty incredible. And you don't think it, unless you really start to experience it. It's pretty special.
Do you get any commercial trucking type interest from this? Is it something that 18-wheeler drivers, long-haul drivers consider or use? It seems like that would be kind of a no-brainer market for them.
I mean, 100%. Yeah. Black UV, black IR, 100%. Especially for those guys, for sure.
So let me ask you this, a somewhat more advanced question. The biggest window on any car is the windshield. Most states have no tint on the windshield rule, except if you have like a medical something or other. I've seen people get their windshields tinted, which I think is the dumbest
letter.
Yes, but it is the dumbest thing I can think of. But with something like the ceramic tint that brings down your temperature, potentially limits the sun damage to your vehicle. Is this available with basically 0% VLT? VLT is help me out here. What does VLT stand for?
Visible light transmission.
Yes. So 100% would be basically black, and 0 would basically be super clear, right?
So when you look at the clear films, and you're really getting down into the technical aspects, all nano ceramic has a slight blue hue to it. So the clearest you can get is 90. So the typical clear films, and I got to put that in air quotes because they're not typically clear. When you put it on your windshield and you're looking through it, they look completely clear. When you take the film and you're looking at it off of a vehicle, you can see a very, very faint blue hue. And the clear films that they put on windshields are typically either 80 or 90%.
So you mean 10 or 20% VLT at this point?
Well, it's the opposite. So
yes. Sorry.
It's the amount of light that it lets through.
Yep. I got you. So none of them are true 100% because you are adding a layer of something. And do you have with like the accident avoidance sensors that are mounted in a lot of the car's windshields? Would you cut around those, or would they be transparent to that?
It's a loaded question, and it really is OEM specific, and it's kind of trial by fire. So, you'll put it on a Tesla, and you'll find out that it's blocking that sensor, and then yes, you do have to cut around it. But honestly, Kamil, the majority of those films go on the inside, and where the sensors are, it's mounted somehow. So you have to go around them. Yeah, you have to go around them anyways. Yeah. It's more the exterior films, which are also getting, VLTs in them, where you would see, more of an issue with the sensor. The films being mounted on the inside that you're referring to with the automotive tint versus the windshield protection film, it's not an issue because you have to go around them anyways where they're mounted to the glass.
Okay. And do you also, so that would be the tint on the inside, and you said you also do the protection for the outside, like Jeep Wranglers are known to have cracked windshields because the damn thing is vertical, or like old FJ Cruisers or something. Mm-hmm. And you guys do those as well?
We do. That's our exterior windshield protection film.
Yep. Okay. Huh.
Careful.
And what does something like that run? Yeah.
That's a Massachusetts company.
Gorilla Glasses? Oh, wow.
Yeah, they were. Gorilla Glass was actually invented in Westboro, Mass.
Had no idea.
So much invention.
They got themselves a good contract there with Jeep.
Well,
the original contract that resurrected Gorilla Glass was actually the original iPhone.
Yep, I knew that. It's pretty crazy. Okay, so this pretty much covers. What else do you want to add about tints? I don't know what else to.
Can I ask a question, Kamil? Because you made me think of something.
No,
so, Chris,
can't.
Even with the 80 to 90% VLT, you still get the heat rejection and the IR protection and all that, right? The UV protection.
Yeah.
And I think that's the important thing, right? It's like if you have, whatever it is, the Rolls-Royce Ghost, and it just has crazy leather on that dashboard, and you really want to, prevent it from weathering over time, and you still want that heat rejection, you could go almost near completely clear, get the performance without making it like we just talked about. We don't want to make it pitch black and have it look terrible, like we were just talking about. So if you do want the performance attributes, but don't want that super dark appearance, that's still achievable, with products like that, which is pretty good.
Does it also have any acoustic properties? Which brand is it? I think it's Range Rovers or BMWs. You can specify glass that keeps the cars quieter.
Well, there's acoustic glass on a lot of automakers.
But is that just completely different glass, or is that something on top of the glass?
That is a great question.
That's a good question. I don't know the answer.
I don't know if it's like thicker or extra pain or something, but
I would imagine that's with the glass itself more than what they're applying to it. But I could be wrong.
You get three ways to do that. You get absorption, and then you get reflection, and you get refraction. I don't know how they're doing the sound attenuation or the sound dampening on the glass with that technology. There are many companies over the years, more on the architectural side for houses and commercial buildings, that have tried to do some type of sound attenuation, and no one has come up with a commercially available film product at this point. A lot of it has what's called aerogel technology, and the issue with the aerogels is no one has figured out how to get them completely clear.
Gotcha. All right. I have one more question. Just about everybody's driving SUVs these days. They come tinted from the factory with the back 3/4, except the driver and passenger side windows. I am guessing that a lot of people come in and say, yes, I want tints, but I want them to match exactly what it is in the back. How do you deal with something like that?
Chris, you want to go? Or
you can take that one. You get more of a from the shop perspective and trying to do that on a daily basis.
For a long time in Massachusetts, and that you are 100% right. That's the literally the first question, right? Especially if it's an SUV or a pickup truck or whatever. The short answer is you can read the factory glass and get a reading, and then match that to a VLT that you're looking for. 20% is kind of in the range of what most OEM SUV glass is in the back. So a 20, it's never going to be a 100% perfect match. If anything, I want to be slightly lighter than the back, just a tick. So there's kind of like this gradual effect versus like the two front windows are darker than the back. That almost looks worse. So, you do a little homework, you test the back, the back glass, you see where that's reading, you match a VLT. But I would say, in 15 years doing it, I would say 9 times out of 10, a 20% VLT was going to get us very close to what the OEM was doing in the back.
Yeah. But you don't have like a library of, hey, the Jeep Wagoneer from 2019 through 2021 uses this color, this VLT, or anything like that?
No.
It gets a little more complicated, Kamil, because you get the backs that are dyed, right? So they're dark and they're aesthetic, but they don't have like UV and things like that. So you actually have to read that. And the other thing that people don't realize is your front windows do come with a VLT already, typically in anywhere from the 3 to 7%, depending on what the manufacturer is. So you have to subtract that. You have to take the back reading, then you have to take the front reading, and then figure out which film you're going to use on that to get the combination of the VLT that's already innately in that glass in combination with the film that you're going to use.
I think the darkest factory tint on the front window, or I should say the most noticeable one I've seen, was on the Lexus cars. Speaking of the LS that we had before, I mean, there's visibly different color. On that window, it's not clear.
What about
if you get a really good tint meter, like an all day, every day, really good tint meter, not the one that has the 2-piece, but the one that slides over, it's about $100. It's $150. And any reputable tint shop will have a tint meter, and they can give you a reading off the back glass and the front and give you the best recommendation so that they match.
What about, two things. First of all, I had an X5 press car recently that was like full fishbowl, just clear all the way around, and it was so just strange because it felt like from a bygone era. But what about, the higher end Range Rovers and the Maybachs? They all have like a colored tinted windshield, and some cars have the heating elements in the windshields. What's the story with that in terms of dealing with it on the tint front?
That's a very good question. I'll take it, Jeff.
Just as I was alluding to before, where you're doing your homework, there's a lot of, especially as new cars come out, new technology, whether it be the way the defroster lines are or whatever technology they're packing into the glass itself. There's a bit of homework, when every new model year is like, okay, what does this manufacturing do? What do we need to look out for? How do we, make sure we maximize safety? I mean, I remember when the Model 3 came out, everyone was worried about, or I shouldn't say everyone was worried. Things happened, right? Like tinters got water in behind electronics, and we're shorting certain computers out, right? That was a thing that just happened because we had never, come across that vehicle before. So there is a lot of kind of homework to be done, before you approach a job and kind of figure out what the canvas is, what you're working through.
That's interesting. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm totally honest. I think this is the longest I've ever spent talking about window tints in my life. So let's move on, just because I know we're all on the clock here. But what I really wanted to talk about is new color PPF. And I mean, everybody who's even tangentially in cars these days knows about PPF, paint protection film, and basically adding a physical layer of film of like a wrap of sorts, but in most cases it's clear. And there's the clear PPF, and then there's kind of the wrap side of things, which is just change the color of your car. And you guys have, or XPEL has concocted a color PPF, which,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that existed before, but I mean, for people like myself who destroys the paint on my truck on a somewhat regular basis and also hates the color of it, this is like an ideal circumstance. So tell us about that.
So to give some background story, he's got a Lexus GX 460. Actually, we both do, but that's a whole different story.
Yours is a 470.
That he offered. Yeah, it's 10 better.
Lexus enthusiasts.
That he off-roads
Toyota
all the time.
enthusiasts. Yeah.
that he off-roads all the time, and that's why it's all beaten up.
That's why the paint is killed. And
Got it.
and yeah, I mean, black
Is that
is
the
also,
car I just got rid of, James?
What's that?
Is that the car I just got rid of?
What do you
The
mean?
GX?
You had a GX? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, you did. Yes.
they're the best.
Am I thinking?
They're the best.
You should know. You
should know. But black paint, I mean, mine's black, and Kamil, yours is black too.
Yeah.
And I mean, that much black paint in the Northeast on a summer day, and it's a freaking oven. But okay, color PPF. I mean, the sample pictures that were sent over, a GT3 RS isn't exactly a bad thing to look at. but tell us about this. How's it work?
Yeah, so I mean, in essence, color PPF is combining two worlds that we've historically had, right? We've historically had clear paint protection film that stops rocks, prevents scratches, is like the ultimate sacrificial barrier, so we can drive more and worry less, right? That's kind of like what PPF has always done.
Yep.
And then we have the vinyl world, which is always like, I want whatever blue, this crazy wild blue. I want that color. I want to wrap my car because I've always wanted that color, right? And vinyl allowed us to geek out on colors. But where vinyl kind of let us down a little bit is on the protective side, right? It's not going to be a product that's going to last 10 plus years and beyond forever. It's going to be more of a short-term solution. It can be chipped just like paint, like being in New England and doing vinyl wraps. I can attest that it is not a protective product. I mean, it is in essence, I guess, but in terms of will it get chipped like paint? 100%, right? Will it get scratched? Will it fade like paint? 100%. So it was always kind of a, more of the show car solution, garage queen, or just I'm okay with it only lasting a couple years, right? Now this is something where it's like 10 plus years, looks like paint versus vinyl. So when I mean looks like paint, I mean like almost no orange peel, really, really low texture, crazy clarity, vibrant gloss, just looks like it came out of the body shop. A good body shop. So kind of a cool thing.
Okay, so a million questions from me. I'm sure Ross has some too. So thickness-wise, is your protective film thinner or about the same as vinyl? Because my experience, I used to have a Land Cruiser that I had partially wrapped, and actually was nothing. But and actually, my Lexus is partially wrapped, and they're sort of both were sort of problematic.
Is it?
Yep.
I have bubbles on both of them, and the Land Cruiser started peeling in places.
Yeah.
Very shortly after the installation.
Your typical wrap vinyl, Kamil, is about 3.2 mils or microns, and your typical colored PPF is 8 mils or microns. So it's more than double, and you have substantial differences in the materials that are being used. So your vinyl is PVC, whereas the color PPF is a TPU. And with that additional body and then the innate properties of the differences in the films, it gives you that extra energy absorption to take that impact of the rock. And the other really nice thing with the color PPF is you'll have the adhesive, then you'll have the color layer, and then you'll have the clear. So it's very similar to the way that they paint your vehicle. And that's where you're able to kind of get that deep, shiny body where you're looking into the paint like you would in a good paint job versus, the vinyl, which is color. And then if it's got some metallic or anything, it's just right on there. You're not looking, there's no depth to it.
Okay.
And, I'll let James take it because he was, really the guy that put it together. had 75-80% say on the color, the story, the why. This has been his baby for about 18 months and did a fantastic job. So I'm going to let him take this one.
No, yeah. I mean, 100%. I mean, it's. I mean, I think a good way to describe it is we've all seen, like, how many times have we all seen bad roof wraps, like in gloss black, right? Everybody. Yep. Faded or peeling up on edges or whatever it may be. And it also just has that distinctive, like, vinyl look, right? Which we've always wanted it to be paint, but it just always lets us down a little bit, right? Color PPF really has that look of paintwork, which is, and when you pair really cool, vibrant colors that have some, that we can kind of be an ode to some really special OEM colors, I think that's when it's like, okay, we get the protection that we want. We get the look that we want. We get the durability we want. And now we can choose colors that we've always wanted, but maybe we don't want to do the 13,000 PTS. Maybe we just, because if you get the paint to sample car, right? You get your Viper Green or whatever you want, your Ruby Star, you still then have to protect it, right? You still don't want rock chips and scratches, so you might have to do, clear PPF on that car, which will be great if that's what you want, the route you want to go. But what maybe you only got the allocation for a black one. You don't want to wait another 2 years, but you do want the Miami blue or the gray black or something crazy, and you're combining both those worlds.
So let me ask you this, and I have about 15 questions in my head right now, and I'm going to try to streamline to this. My Land Cruiser was a Japanese right-hand drive 1996 Land Cruiser, where it came from Japan. It was living somewhere near the ocean in the sun, and the whole roof was basically faded. And I was too cheap to actually have it properly painted. Well, I could have done a lousy paint job, but I chose to have it wrapped, and then the guy just sanded the roof out a little bit, and he said that the wrap will protect it, and it did. So my first question for you is, you're going with vehicles that are several years old. What is the prep that has to be done before you put your PPF film on?
Great question. So, I mean, just like any PPF, clear, satin, color, no, the prep is always the same. So, and I always say that the installation will only look as good as the canvas. So if you have chips and imperfections or peeling, clear coat or anything like that, it will show through. Now, color does do a better job because it's not clear at kind of masking older imperfections. So color PPF might be like our first PPF where you can kind of, if you do have a car that's got a little bit of miles, it's got some road rash, like the rockers are a little beat up and they're a little rough, you might not get as good of a bond to those types of surfaces because you have, the clear coat has literally been smashed to a point where you now have roughness. But it will mask and kind of wash out some of that more minor wear on cars. Like if you have a giant gouge, you're still going to see it through. Yeah. But if you have just like, I got a couple chips there that I filled in that were never perfect. Now, if I put clear PPF over that, you're going to see that perfect little circle of where you filled in that chip. Now, if you put color PPF over that same little spot, it's not as apparent, which I think is a cool thing because, if you have a 30,000 mile, 235 and you're all in on it and you want to change the color, this is going to be more of an option than I think than clear would be at that time with that mileage.
Yeah, I mean, we just heard Zach from Smoke and Tire go through this whole thing with his, E46. It was like, I don't think it was a color PPF, but it was definitely a color wrap, and it was basically the teardown and the prep is the outcome.
Yeah. And going back a little bit, I didn't really talk about prep. I was just talking about the canvas. But in terms of prep, like what does the prep look like? That's a full wash, decontamination. So iron remover, tar remover, clay, rinse, blow dry, isopropyl alcohol wipe down. I mean, the goal is to get it as sterilely clean as possible. So there's just nothing left on that paint, right? It's just pure paint ready to accept that adhesive, ready to create a really nice bond. And, so there's not dirt coming out of all the body seams and stuff like that. And that's truly what separates a great install from an average one is to that story with the Smoke and Tire. That's the whole bit. It starts with the foundation.
So that's my next question. I worked in the body shop throughout college for a little bit, so I know that the key to a really good paint job is the prep of the metal and the prep of the body. So when you got installers, where you got a true professional versus the guy Joe Schmo who does wraps on the side, at the end of the day, you want a client that's going to be happy with your product, but the installation of it is the key. So do you select your installers, or do you give them training, or how does that work?
Both, right? So there is a selection process for our installer network. There is training for our installer network that we continually do, and there's certain levels to that training. So we try to stay, if we partner up with a shop in a specific area, we try to work with them throughout their journey, right? Continually improving, because that just like any industry, that learning never ends. Especially in automotive, where the canvas is always changing, right? So we may master a 2012 Honda Accord front bumper, but guess what? It's changing next year. So we got to keep learning new techniques and trying. So that is certainly an important part of what we do.
And Russ, can you go back to the picture of that yellow Jeep Wrangler, which is not exactly yellow? Now, how do you deal with things such as see the hinges that are over here?
That's what I was going to ask. Are these like pre-cut templates, or is everything like vehicle by vehicle?
It is vehicle by vehicle. So now there's going to be some shops that, depending on what vehicle it is, it's going to be a completely bulk installation, which is taking bulk material and applying it to the car. Mm-hmm. Most of the time, it's going to utilize one of our most important things that we have, which is our DAP pattern system, right? So that is literally where we go to every brand new car and we are digitizing and creating patterns for our PPF. Obviously, that was hugely important for our gloss and our satin films. With our color films, we take those patterns, and it's going to be up to the shop or the installer to look at the pattern, see what's there, and seeing where he then has to extend it or modify it. Because with color PPF, you have to cover every little millimeter of paint versus gloss, where you can maybe get away with it. So the Jeep Wrangler is honestly one of the worst case scenarios. It's not a fun car to wrap. Because what's going to help that is going to be some parts dismantling as well. So for example, like the grille would come out, the door handles, the tail lights, very basic components that can be safely removed from an installation facility. That can sometimes be a key to a seamless installation. On those hinges, right? So we do have patterns for each one of those hinges. In that example, we actually got for this press car, we got gloss black covers, right, to make it a little bit more seamless. Mm-hmm. So on those particular hinges, it's their gloss black painted covers. But you could do the film as well, but then you wouldn't be able to do the bolt, right? So then you'd have to get the bolt painted. So again, it's just like anything. It's just nuance. With color nuance. PPF, it's nuance. It's the homework. Okay, what can we wrap? What can't we wrap? What's going to stay? What's not going to stay? All that good stuff.
There's no on this one with the color change.
Nope.
Cannot.
Separate.
So how do you have that rule?
You're looking at worst case scenario right there.
Yeah.
If you ask any rappers, they'll tell you the Wrangler and the G-Wagon are probably the two most difficult cars to color change.
Yeah,
probably the two most common too.
Yeah.
Good thing Jeeps are Legos.
Now So if we go back to the picture of the Jeep for a second, you had that. Well, you don't need to. We know what a Jeep looks like. But you had that.
Imagine a Jeep.
You had that Rubicon lettering on the side of the hood. How do you deal with that? Do you just reapply the OEM stickers on top of your wrap?
Yeah, you gotta rebuy the stickers and reapply them.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Amazon has everything you need for Jeep stickers, and so does
No, my first experience with this film was I have a new Bronco in addition to the GX, and a guy down the street got exactly the same color, the gray that was originally popular when they first came out in 22. And I look at it, I'm like, wait, why is this car so damn dirty? And I took a closer look. I'm like, no, it's just matte. So he had the clear film applied everywhere, and I'm like, phew.
Yeah.
So this was quite cool and quite mind-blowing to me.
Yep.
How and you know, the Hyundai that I mentioned earlier that I'm driving right now, it's matte blue, but that's paint. And this brings me to my next question: is the owner's manual says do not drive this car through the car wash because it will come out without the paint. So, what is the maintenance and cleaning procedure of this wrap? Or no, I'm sorry, this colored PPF to be.
Yeah. So, I mean, ideally, you know, paint protection film is designed to reduce the amount of time it takes to clean the car, right? Because of the surface energy, it releases dirt easier. That doesn't, you know, I think the biggest misconception is that it nullifies the cleaning process, right? And that's not true. So I think, you know, I always say I treat color PPF, I treat paint protection film on the whole, gloss, satin, whatever it is, just like paint. So it's going to be washed like paint. It's going to, you know, we're going to seal it and add, you know, whether it be, you know, ceramic coatings to it or ceramic spray waxes, what have you. We're going to treat it the same way. It's just something that's going to stay cleaner longer. And if you do have an issue, or like, let's say you do have buildup, or let's say you have like road paint, right, that falls on the side of the car, you have more time to deal with it before it becomes a major issue. I think that's the big thing. So if you're on the road trip and, you know, you just get blasted with sand and salt or whatever it is, you know, you're not freaking out, right? It's like, okay, I'll make it home. We're cool. Yeah. I got PPF. You know, we're all right. Yeah. But maintenance being the wash process is still an absolutely vital, like, cornerstone of maintaining it over the long term.
Okay. And let's say 5 years go by, you want to sell the car, your PPF is pitted and whatnot, you want to take it off. What is involved with that, and is there any chance of having the paint damage as you're taking it off, or is there procedures for that?
Chris, you want to do that one?
There's always potential for damage, Kamil. It all depends on, you know, again, like anything else, the level of care that they take. So if you have an OEM paint job and you are picking at the edges and, you know, you use a steamer and, you know, the proper angle to remove the film, you're going to get it off and relatively cleanly. If you're trying to kind of haphazardly go through it and not follow best practices, and you're pulling at the wrong angle and it's been on there for 5 years, the bond is going to be very, very, very intact with that clear coat, and you could potentially damage it. So it all comes down to care and best practices. And, you know, we highly recommend using a steam heat assist. Some people use heat guns. Heat guns are equally as good as steam. They're just a little bit harder to control. You know, so, you know, if you're using a steamer and you get steam on your hand, it hurts a little bit. If you get a little too close to your fingers with a heat gun, you could really burn yourself. The other thing is with heat guns, some of them go up to around 1400 degrees. So as you're peeling that film away at the right angle and somebody, you know, heats it up too much, what'll happen is you'll get tearing. And you're always going to get a cleaner removal the less you have to stop, you know, because you'll get a little bit of a ratcheting effect. One of the things that people don't realize is that film has a lot of elasticity to it, which gives it its durability. So as you're going to pull away, if you extend it too much, what's going to happen is you're going to break the bond between the film and the adhesive is going to stay on the clear coat, which doesn't damage anything. It just makes it a little bit more of a cleanup after the fact when you get the film off.
Gotcha.
You know, James as a perfectionist has removed more film than I have and has it down to a science. He still tends to lose the skin on his fingers, but
you know what I mean?
At the end of the day, Kamil, and we're being honest, it's not rocket science. There are best practices to follow, but it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah,
most good things.
The Land Cruiser that I mentioned before, it had 20-year-old Japanese like metallic tint on it that was all faded and stuck to it. I was just cursing taking that thing off. I ended up finding paying someone to do it, and he had it done in an hour after I was struggled with it for many hours and cut myself and had all kinds of drama going on with it. So I guess steam is the answer on that one.
So the listeners at this point are probably wondering the same thing that I'm wondering, which is, what is the ballpark price to do a color PPF, and how does that differ from a wrap or just a standard XPEL PPF? And I know you're going to say, it's all situational and vehicle dependent and market dependent and everything, but let's just say you have a Wrangler Unlimited. You come in and you want, like we were looking at before, you want your Sarge green Wrangler to be hella yellow or whatever the XPEL equivalent of bright yellow is. What can somebody expect to pay?
It will be variable, but it's down to the expectation and how the shop is doing it, right? So, for example, there are going to be shops that are going to dismantle the whole vehicle to the nth degree, and that's why color PPF on the whole is going to be more expensive than clear, than satin PPF. Obviously, way more so than vinyl, because of the level of knowledge and obviously of liability that the shop is going to accrue by having to dismantle so much. So that'll be one element. Again, like the Model 3, there's really not much to take apart. Emblems, window trim, maybe a real taillight, and you could wrap the whole car to a really, really high level, unlike the Jeep Wrangler.
Probably do a better job putting it back together after you take those couple things apart than Tesla does.
Well, yeah, you're not wrong. So
we just have to say for the listeners, Tesla is a very good partner to XPEL.
Yes.
Yeah. My comments have nothing to do with XPEL's actual professionalism.
So it depends. It'll depend on the canvas, but I think on a safe range would be anywhere from that, as little as $6,000 as high as $15,000, right? For those G wagons and stuff that you're completely disassembling and reassembling. So it's it is car to car.
So the hourly rate of the shop aside, what is about the percentage difference in cost between the materials, between a vinyl wrap and between your colored PPF and the regular PPF?
In terms of just the cost of material itself?
Yeah.
Yes, it is a bit more expensive than vinyl. So yeah, I mean, the material cost is certainly going to be higher. Your labor cost is certainly going to be
20%, 30%, just from material.
TPU versus vinyl is significantly more expensive, and it is double the thickness. And one of the things that you don't realize as a consumer is the manufacturing process of a TPU versus a PVZ, the machinery as well as the raw materials and the length of the runs is substantially longer. So the cost difference in vinyl and PPF is, and I'm ballparking it, but it's almost double.
Yeah, I just did some numbers right here. It's about double. But
that's fair to say. But people just want to know. So
people will want to
know.
Yeah, it's not even the politically correct answer. It's about double.
Okay, we're all about being politically incorrect. Don't worry.
Chris, do you want to mention the warranty? You want to mention the warranty on color PPF?
Well, and one of the big differences, to Steve's point, if you look at vinyl, depending on the manufacturer, you'll have horizontal warranties versus vertical warranties. And then if the car is in Massachusetts versus California versus Texas versus, Florida, some of those warranties on the vinyls, and I'm not even kidding, are 6 and 8 pages long. Some vinyl warranties are as low as 2 years. One of the really beautiful things with color PPF is all the constructions are exactly the same. And our warranty, no matter what the color is, no matter where you are in the world, it's a 10-year warranty.
Ooh, that makes sense. I mean, just because you have a car in Massachusetts doesn't mean it stays in Massachusetts,
Well, and not only that though, Ross. I mean, the value prop is really there. If you're talking about a $5,000-$6,000, vinyl wrap job, which some of the higher end shops are going to charge, you can get one as low as $3,000. But most vinyl wraps with disassembly, they're keeping the car for probably 4 days, some 5, and it's typically right around $5,000. And you're looking at a 3-year warranty versus an $8,000 just to ballpark it color PPF. Color change with the 10-year warranty. That value proposition is really there, in my opinion.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And you also said that the color PPF is slightly thicker than a clear one, right?
No. The clear and the color they have slightly different constructions, but it's very similar to the same thicknesses.
Okay, all right. And adding that thin layer of all over the vehicle when you're reassembling the trim, does it give anybody any trouble in terms of putting like the vents back in or some kind of stuff, or is it just you just roll
I
with
would
it?
say on the whole, no. But there are certain areas where you maybe could get a little bit tighter with vinyl because it is a thinner construction. So the first example I'm thinking of is if you take the front bumper off and you wrap the front bumper into like inside, and then you take the bumper and wrap inside, and then you have these two pieces, 8mm material rubbing up against each other as that front bumper moves over time as you drive. With a thicker product, you're more prone to bunching. So there are certain areas where you just have to be mindful of those types of situations, and maybe you can't go all the way in. You go right up to the point, or have to make some modifications in order to achieve the look you're going for.
Gotcha.
Okay, my last question, and then I think we're probably going to start wrapping things up. How durable exactly, and I mean exact is an impossible question, but showcasing a Wrangler or talking about a vehicle that gets caught behind a salt truck in the winter, or in like my case on my GX, I have trail rash, which is basically you're driving down narrow trails and the tree branches just brush and scrape the sides. Like, is this stuff, what does it withstand? I mean, is it truly more than a paint can handle?
Yes,
for sure.
Yes, big time. Yeah. So when you're talking about sacrificial scratches, swirl marks, I mean that's probably. I mean, for me, that's always been the thing I've loved about paint protection film is just the swirl mark resistance. So the car guys, we're always loving on our cars. How many times have we seen the guys with the California Duster at the car show just absolutely going to town right on soft paint. And that's obviously
scratching away. Yeah.
Scratching away, right? And you're like, oh man, it's tough to watch. But with paint protection film, you have so much more resistancy to that. But there is a threshold, just like anything, right?
Yeah.
And that threshold, it could be a variety of different things. But is a shopping cart, gouge going to be completely self-healing and preventable? No, but I think the thought process has always been that PPF is the ultimate sacrificial barrier. Once it's taken its hits, it's done its job, it's saved your paint. Chris alluded to how easily it comes off with steam. Take it off, put a new panel on, and keep the cycle going. Right? I think that's always been the kind of the mantra that we go by.
James, you mentioned self-healing, though, but I think most people don't know how that works. Can you explain that?
I was actually going to ask about that because it's such a, it's like descriptive, but, vague at the same time.
Yeah, so our top coat for color PPF is a little bit different than our standard products. It's a hydrophilic self-healing top coat. So hydrophilic refers to water sheeting. So it does a really great job at not keeping water stagnant on the panel and beading up really nicely. We want it to kind of flow off, which nullifies water spots, keeps everything kind of flowing off the paint, which is a good thing. It's also, the self-healing part relates to minor scratching that can be eliminated through the introduction of heat. And that might be hot water, that might be just the sun. So if we do by accident put a little towel mark in the film, or we scratch it with the California Duster by accident, we can utilize that self-healing top coat to kind of reflow the top coat to a point where you no longer see those swirls and scratches.
So my Bronco was keyed by someone who I know, but that's a whole different story. And I dropped it off to a detailing place, and they did an amazing. Don't ask.
Tell me that story off air.
It's not. It's okay. Fine. But regardless, I dropped it off to a local detailing place over here, a well-known one, and they did an amazing job of hiding that scratch. So, would you use so you wouldn't use those same practices that you would use on a painted metal. You would use what you just said, right?
Yeah. So I mean, for metal, right? We're wet sanding. We're going to try to fill it in with color. We're going to wet sand. We're going to try to kind of remove material in order so that visually we can't see the scratch anymore.
Yep.
Right? That's how we would repair that scenario. With color PPF, it's kind of just a different thought process. Now, there are times where we can do repairs. So we can polish, color PPF or gloss PPF. We can use various cleaners and what have you to try to remove gouges or paint transfer. I mean, paint transfer, that's probably that's like the hero shot of PPF, where it's like you're in a parking lot, someone hits you with the white car, and you have this like white skid, mark on your PPF, and you just go over there with isopropyl alcohol and just completely just take it off, and you're like, wow,
that's cool.
That's awesome.
Cool.
I saved my film and I saved my car, and now I don't have to go to the body shop. I mean, it's like, wow, that's really cool. Now, granted, for every one of those instances, there's going to be instances where, someone hits you hard enough where it's hitting the PPF enough where you do have to remove it, but the underlining paint is saved, right? That's the cool part.
And if you really look at a paint system, and one thing that people don't realize, right? So when you look at your car, you're going to have your substrate, whether it's the fiberglass, carbon fiber, metal, right? Then you're going to have primer. You're going to have paint, your actual color. You're going to have clear coat. That's going to typically mic out at around 6.5 mils. And you know how easy it is to damage that, to get through the clear and to actually remove some of that paint, i.e. a nick or a scratch. If you look at PPF, whether it's the stealth, our gloss, or our color, that's a sacrificial 8 mil layer. So you're actually putting on a protective layer that's thicker than the totality that you have on top of your substrate, the metal of your actual vehicle. So that's how much you have for a protective layer on top of your paint. And to get to your original question about the way that the self-healing works, there's a couple of very simple technologies, and at the simplest form, you have molecules in that top coat that when you introduce heat, they like each other, right? So they're completely static, and when you introduce heat, and the simplest way to explain it is, if you put hot water in a Keurig cup, pour just raw water in a Keurig and dump the water onto the paint from 8 inches, that heat right there will be enough to self-heal anything that didn't get through the self-healing layer, which is about 1/4 mil on top of the PPF itself.
That's
so, once you get through that, you will lose the self-healing properties, but you're still not damaging the paint, to James's earlier point.
With the colored PPF, is there fading over time? So if I have PPF that's 18 months old and I have to replace a panel, and I put in, I have that Jeep Wrangler, and I put in a new yellow, is there fading on the old yellow? Because you can't blend it. The only way to do it properly will you replace the whole thing. Is that one of its properties? Does the color stay more with it, or is there fade associated with it?
Yeah. So when Chris was kind of alluded to the construction a little while ago, there's a lot of things that we've built into this film to resist fading over time. And we do these crazy weathering studies and send the film all over the world. And it's got to be as durable in the deserts of Dubai as it is in Boston, right? So there's a lot of checks and balances that we put in to ensure that we do get color stability over time. However, if you have a car, in Florida on the beach and it sits outside every day, will you get fading over time? Yes, right. Just like we are with our normal clear-coated paint systems, we're going to get that same level over time. So it does depend on where it's stored, how it's stored, driving conditions, road conditions, all those kind of variables come into how it.
Does it vary on what it's applied to? Sometimes the paint fades faster on some plastics than on some steel, for instance.
The simplest answer, Kamil, is it's not going to be any different than your standard paint system. And certain colors are more prone to that than others. But if you have your entire car wrapped, right, and you did have one panel that got damaged, and as you know, because you said you have a body shop background and there's blending associated with that, you don't have the ability to do that with the color PPF. So if you do one door on a car that's in Florida and it's, a black, you will probably have to replace both doors to get those to match. Exactly the same that you would have to do with the paint system. It's going to fade exactly the way that OEM paint would fade.
Gotcha.
This is the
but and hopefully at a slower rate, right? Would be the ultimate goal.
this is the perfect opportunity.
Russ, correct me if I'm wrong. I think we're running out of time.
Yeah. We said we were going to do 45. We've done an hour, and I was just going to quip that this is a perfect opportunity for more Volkswagen Harlequins, where different color panel of the whole car.
Oh yeah. We did. The team in Australia did like a GT3 Harlequin style look and say. I was
okay,
like,
that's
the coolest
thing
thing I've ever seen.
I mean, it's a Volkswagen,
Yes, it is.
So, all right. Well, I think we've gone all over the place, and I think we covered quite a lot. And thank you guys, James, Chris, Steve. Thanks for coordinating.
This was extremely interesting and educational. I really had a good time, and I think you guys should come back at some point because I feel like we could keep going for another hour. Definitely. Because we're geeks and dorks when it comes to these things.
Yeah.
Kamil, you get an open invitation. James spends quite a bit of time at XPEL Boston, which is right in Norwood, right by where Ferrari is on the Auto Mile. Anytime you want to stop by and James isn't traveling and you wanted to see some of the stuff we're doing, you're open invitation.
Awesome.
And Ross, same to you. It'd be about an hour and a half drive, hour 45. You're more than welcome.
Yeah,
I will definitely take you up on this. I actually have some time maybe later this week. And if not, we'll probably see you at the Concours event this weekend in Rhode Island.
Yes, sir. Looking forward to it.
Gentlemen, thank you for having us. It was a blast.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.